Kardeisha Provo, a young filmmaker from North Preston, is determined to reshape the perceptions of her community through her work. Her short film, North Preston, The Untold Story, showcased at the annual Halifax Black Film Festival, highlights the intricate realities of North Preston's residents and aiming to shed light on the beauty and the complexity of her hometown. Selected as one of the 5 filmmakers for Being Black in Canada mentorship program, Kardeisha is set to further amplify her voice and her skills under the guidance of industry veterans. Sponsored by Netflix, this incentive is one of the largest of its kind in Canada, offering invaluable support and opportunities for emerging Black filmmakers. Kardeisha joins me now to talk about this and more. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to finally have you here.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
You are a busy woman.
Yeah, I guess so.
So I'm excited because there's so much that you're doing. When I read your bio, and then every time I'm seeing what you're doing, following you, what you're doing, there's a lot going on for you. Mm-hmm. But before we get into any of that, tell me why filmmaking, storytelling, how did you get into all of that?
So when I was younger, everyone, like my dad specifically, like always had cameras, always filming and recording, showing me old footage and stuff. Yeah. And that really made me like value documenting and documenting not just my journey, but the journey of the people around me.
Right.
And so as I got older, originally I thought I wanted to like do medicine. I did go that route for a minute, but then I kind of quickly realized that wasn't it for me. And I kind of got into the Remix project. I'm not sure if we spoke about that, but that program really showed me that I could utilize like my creativity as a career. And that's kind of, why I chose storytelling. Yeah.
And you speak of your dad and I know your mom, they're both supportive of you. What difference does that make to have someone in your corner?
It definitely makes a huge difference. Like I always say, like, I'm thankful from the community that I come from because they really like have pushed and propelled me into whatever direction I really wanted to go in since I was young. And like I would say like at first when I was kind of like transitioning from wanting to be a doctor to wanting to be a filmmaker.
Now doctor's a good choice.
Yeah, that was definitely like a difficult thing. But I remember we went to one of my cousin's wedding in Vegas and we went to LA, and I remember telling my parents like I'm gonna be a director. And this was like 2019, like just like, really deciding to go full force with it. And, maybe my mom was a little bit skeptical, but because I actually like put my foot down into that field, like, and really like stood my ground in it, they've definitely been supportive the whole way. And they just want me to be happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And any good parent would want that as long as you're productively doing something. You speak of your community. And we know that North Preston isn't always highlighted or favored in mainstream media. But for you, why is it so important to showcase these stories and bring to life, all of the aspects that get overlooked and missed?
It's definitely very important. And it's kind of what even like sparked my journey in a way, is that negative side. When I was like 16, a bunch of things had happened and you kept hearing our community's name and not in favorable things. And what that did was made us look at each other differently. And it we don't realize the effects that media has on our internal like communication with each other and all of that. So I really was like really frustrated, really angry, and it really propelled me into like, okay, well, what can I do to like combat this issue? And if this is going to keep me up at night, then I have to do something about it. And so then that's when I started YouTube, and then that like kind of like allowed me to document the community in a way that made sense for me and just shined light as opposed to highlighted all those like imperfections and negativity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's telling your story or our story our way, right? And I say this to people in the community all the time, we're the professionals. We are the experts in our community. We know each other. We know what makes and breaks, as you said, the things that keeps you up at night, but also the things that keeps bringing us together to celebrate, right? So I remember you doing a project on the basketball court, right?
Yeah.
And I came across a photo of you guys in action, filming and all this stuff. Tell me a little bit about that project.
So that was part of the Being Black in Canada program. and it was part of the documentary that I have, North Preston, The Untold Story. The bringing together of that project was really special. I had a friend that, you know, really supported me through that, and you know, just allowed me to like experiment through just like doing and like not ever having done something like that in the community before at all, but like just like really like held my hand through it and just like had my back. And you know, I had a whole plan of like, oh, like let's invite a bunch of people to one area, the central area, which is our rec center and basketball court.
Yes.
And then like it was like, so in the morning there was the younger people, like the kids.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah, they got to be in that. And then throughout the night it was like people a little bit older than me, just like my peers, like they kind of got to showcase themselves on the film as well. So it's all like the kind of like the full picture of my lens of the community is shown in that film. You know, there's different lenses as you go, different generations, but I got to really show like what I saw and the beauty that I saw from this place, and just share it. So it was a really special coming together.
It was, because I was there for, I think maybe some of it, but not all of it, and just to be supportive of you. But what I was able to capture was the young folks just pulling on you and listening to you, and as you're giving direction. And I remember Mara in that photo. And these are the reasons why we capture these things, to hold those memories high, right? Because he's no longer with us. What effect has that had on you?
It's definitely affected me. You know, it's been a few years, and every single year there does seem to still be more things that happen. So every time something new happens, it just brings back some of those old wounds and those memories. And I think one thing that I learned, you know, when it all kind of started to happen, was to really hold on to those memories that I have with those individuals. And you know, it's like photos and pictures and videos that I've had with them from our whole growing up time and his growing up. And I definitely like hold them near, and I'm like also in a space of like ready to share them. And wanting to do it in the most delicate way that also allows us to celebrate their lives and see them in the light that God intended them.
Right, absolutely.
So that, you know, it's definitely difficult, but when you have a strong community and you have strong families around you that like help you through those moments, and you have outlets to share like their lives, that makes it a bit more.
So, you know, has anybody shared with you their feedback around your films? Like, I know some people get excited because, wow, now North Preston's on the map, or it's being out there more. But is there anything that people have shared with you in terms of feedback regarding your film?
I mean, other than like, you know, like people having that same feeling as I do, like the fact that I got to capture certain moments in our lives that like you almost like wouldn't think about while you're doing it, but after the fact it's like so important
and appreciated
and needed, because like the footage that I have of their lives is like so up close and personal, because I had a real relationship with these people. And like it's like, you know, like of course sometimes I'm like, no, I don't want to share this with anyone, I want to hold this, like, but then I also know that there's other people that have relationships with them that deserve to see them, and also other people that have heard about them and they get to see them in, like I said, the intended light that God like made them to be,
created them to be in.
So it's like, it's interesting. But
and your grandmother's featured in that film too.
Yes.
I think there's some caption of her, because it would be
there's a picture.
Okay.
There's definitely a few pictures, because I used, so that's a thing, like the way that I create is like, yes, I'll capture things in the present, but we like to take things from the past as well and just like be able to like throw them all in there to create a full, like give context for the stories that we're telling.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that and for being vulnerable to share that. So let's jump for a second here. So now that this film's out and you have some traction and you're still creating, when you came to the Halifax Black Film Festival itself, right? You guys had a panel discussion, I'm sure. Were you part of that panel discussion?
Yeah, so when this came out, so it was in 2021.
Right.
Literally the day before my best friend was passed.
Yes.
And I had to like submit my voiceover for like the last final like touches of the film. The next day that happened, or that night that happened, and then like the next day we were basically on press, if that makes sense. Like we had to show up for those online panels, because at the time it wasn't in person. So there's a lot of chaos happening in my life that I'm remembering. And so it was like a, kind of had to do like a press tour in the middle of a heavy grieving situation. But like I said, he was one of the main people that was supportive of me through that filming and through that process. So I was like, I have to do it. So
that is hard, and I could see a little bit of your pain through that. So I don't want to stay on that topic too long, but I just want to acknowledge, because he was important to the community, right? All of them. I guess that's gone on now. But I guess I'm driving to the point of why films are so important, right? It dates something, but it also allows us to go back to appreciate something.
Right.
Would you?
There's this quote or something that I've been seeing like kind of over the past few years. It's like, if you don't photograph yourself, you die forever. And I've always thought about that when it comes to like documenting just the people around me. And I've grew up seeing films and videos of people that I never got to meet. And like, it's like I got to see their essence and their fullness from footage from like years ago. That matters to me, especially for our legacy, like of our community and just of our like time here together, like for the generations to come. Like, they need to see what it was like in 2024.
Absolutely.
So that's like important to me.
I like that. No, I like that, because sometimes I get havoc from my family because I'm always taking photos. Never in front, always behind, but I'm always taking photos, because in those moments I'm really enjoying, and everybody's it's happy, it's cheerful, it's celebratory. And so we take those moments not to expose people at the worst or whatever, but the fact that we're capturing something, right? And I try to convince them, but now I don't even pay attention anymore, because when we go back, or if they see it, it's like, oh, I remember that, right? Like they didn't appreciate it then, but they appreciate it later.
Right, because they just didn't know that. Like, they're almost like, oh, don't take a picture of me. But then like in 5 years, it's like you're actually looking for that picture.
Oh, how come I wasn't in that picture?
Or like, what I want to be in the next one. But
Okay, so now you have new projects coming up, and you want to tell us a little bit of what's happening with you currently?
Yeah, I'm working on a launch for my business. It's called Kaleidoscope Network. Yeah, and we're, a collective of creatives that just work together and share visuals and wanting them to like be shown to a global audience. So I'm working on a launch / exhibit in the near future, where that'll like showcase a lot of the work that I haven't got a chance to share yet. And like I said, wanting to do that in like the most respected light, where where people walk in and see themselves, and that's always really important. So
And where would that be housed at?
We're still working out those details, but it will be like towards the end of this year. So
will you come back on the show and share some of those details? Because we would love to know where to find you and how to support Kaleidoscope.
Once all those details and it's all ready to go, I'll definitely
absolutely. We would love that. And so now that the juniors have passed, how was that experience for you?
That experience was definitely interesting, because Mel, DJ Mel Boogie, Maestro's sister, she had reached out like a couple months ago and came out here like October of last year and kind of like laid down her vision, what she had planned, what she wanted to do for her brother. He was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
And so I was like listening and taking it in, and then kind of like giving her like my like insight on the landscape of how the communities work out here and how we could like really make it a real event. And so we just kind of like stayed connected throughout the time, kind of like
brainstormed,
collaborated. She got R&B Kitchen in on there.
Which
got my
was
mom
delicious,
connected.
By the way.
Got my mom connected to her, and then to see the event come to life, it felt like the start of something new and something that we've been
agree with that.
brewing for a while, right?
Like,
and to see the music being the driving force, which we've always known our communities has thrived on. It felt good to see people from across Canada sitting in the room with people from from our communities, and like in like a very like luxurious way. Like it wasn't
very
just
high class,
like it was good. Like it was cool.
It was lovely.
Yeah,
it was
the
a great
venue
spot.
was amazing. Like it was overwhelming for me.
Really?
It was very overwhelming because it's like, you know, when you have a vision for something or you can hear someone else's vision and then like to see it brought to life and then see where that's going to take us, it was overwhelming.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way when I'm designing and doing fashion. This is like, it's in here, then it's on paper, and then it's on a life form. Like, it's like, okay, right? Like, you're from the concept to creation, that it's now achievable, right? Yeah,
it feels good.
Yeah, it does. It does. Really, and I would have to agree with you that, you know, everybody in that room, whether you knew them or didn't know them, the energy, the vibe was pumping, right? And I didn't know that you were part of the startup of that, but you know, I'm glad that you were able to put that in her ear.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was very successful.
Yes,
very successful. So here's my question for you in terms of a young person being in this industry. Because we don't see a lot of, you know, Blacks in front or behind the camera, and that's changing. The dial is changing slowly. But what would you envision for that in regards to the community? Because I know that you're developing a business. You also have projects out there. Are you trying to create a space where people can work as a 9-to-5 in this industry, or that they have viable options in this industry?
I think a bit of both. Like, I think in the film industry specifically, I've always looked at it as like an opportunity to employ multiple people from multiple fields, because you need construction workers, you need lighting technicians, you need cameramen, you need actors, background actors, directors. Like, you need so many things to like fuel one film and in a production. So I've always saw it as an opportunity to like provide thousands of jobs for people within our communities. Like, that could be like, you know, like, if you think about like imports and exports and all of that, like that can kind of be our thing, like where we're very creative people, we're very talented, and we love to work together and be together. Like, I always looked at film being that like thing. The thing about that though is that the way that the industry exists already in Nova Scotia, in Canada, and across the world has to be adapted for it to work within our communities. So it's like, if I can act as a bridge between those two worlds, that's always kind of how I want it to be. And to where we're creating our own way of doing things in community where it's supported by the already existing industries. And they just send us all the training and all the tools and support. That's all we need, honestly.
The training and understanding, you know, how this industry works, whether it's lingo or whether it's, you know, the connection pieces, right? Because it's who you know in this business, I think, right? Am I wrong to say that?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely skill, but then it's like, if I can learn any skill if I know how to get in the room.
Exactly. So where has this led you in terms of travel or life experiences? Because I'm sure you've been, of course, to Toronto, but abroad to kind of, you know, glean from industry professionals. Like, what are some fond memories that you can say, I've had this experience, right? And I got to travel such and such to have this experience. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've been quite a few places in the world, I guess, and it's all based on like where I feel I'm being called. And like, if God's calling me to a certain part of the world, then I guess I have to answer that call and I have to go.
And go and explore and experience.
Yes, and always going with the intention of, you know, bringing who I am to the place, but also learning that place and learning the way that people move there and their way of being, and connecting with like-minded individuals in those areas and then bringing that all back home.
Right.
So, you know, I've been to London. I spent a few months in London. Just getting to understand the landscape of that place.
What did you discover?
It's a lot like here,
right?
Like Halifax,
hospitality. Yeah, like very hospitable.
It's like they're very different over there, but it's like the way that the place, like, even like if you think about like the stones, like when you're going to Halifax and you're driving and the way the streets are set up,
right?
That's how like a lot of places are in London.
Very what's the word? I know what you're trying to say.
It's just like old English ways of like
exactly historic buildings, history.
Like, which is like really cool because it was that familiarity, but then it's like it's like Toronto 20 times over. Like, it's way bigger than anywhere in the world.
I enjoyed being over there too. I was in Belfast actually for a business exchange some years ago, and it was, I guess, traveling keeps you cultured for me, and it opens you up to, you know, even dreaming bigger, thinking bigger, that there's so much out there, right? Sure. So I'm happy that you have those experiences. So before we run out of our time here with you, because I can talk to you all day, and she will be back on the show, folks, so make sure you tune in for that. Share with me any final thoughts that you would say to young film artists or who's trying to break into the industry, but also to your young Black community youth. What would you share with them?
For young filmmakers, anyone that's interested in that field, or even just like interested in storytelling, like even if it's on social media or any style, I would definitely say connect with people. Like even if it's someone on Instagram that you don't know, like hit them up, like follow them, stay connected in their community, because opportunities come all the time.
Right.
And the only way, like you learn by doing in this industry. Like you definitely have to put yourself out there and like plant your feet out there so that you can, learn on the move. There's also YouTube videos and all that. Like you can do courses, you can go to school for it for sure, but being in the field is really where you're going to gain that experience.
That's true.
And for, just other youth in the communities, if film isn't your thing or creating isn't your thing, I think finding what you're passionate about is probably like the most important thing to me. And I think people across the world could say that too. Because if you know what you're passionate about, then you're going to work towards that. And yes, you can work and do other things, but if you're passionate about your work and you know why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to actually like keep at it, and you're going to end up in places that you just couldn't have even imagined.
Right on.
So I definitely say
Absolutely.
find what you're passionate about. For sure.
I love that. I think that's a perfect segue to thank you for being on the show and also sharing your experiences, both being vulnerable and being honest and truthful. And what I would say to you, Kardeisha, and watching you kind of develop and grow into a young lady, now a business entrepreneur, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Extremely proud of you. And, just being here on the show says that you have the boldness to have the driving force within you to show up in the world that way. So keep doing what you're doing. However I can support, I will, whether it's showing up, whether it's, hey, Nicole, let me be on the show again, that's fine. Whatever you need, we're here, because that's what community does. We show up, right? Our presence is important, right?
Yes, I really appreciate it.
So I've been talking to Kardeisha Provo, who was selected as one of the 5 filmmakers for a Netflix-sponsored mentorship program, Being Black in Canada. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow us on our social media handle here for any community updates. I'm Nicole Johnson, and we'll see you soon.